Now, episode 4, we are brought back to Mama and Grandpa coming back to the home, it being destroyed, and they're confused and scared, unsure where the kids are. They go their separate ways, Mama heading to Oscar's, hoping that the kids ran there, and Grandpa following Nugget to see if maybe he knows where they're at and can sniff them out. And finally, we are brought back to the kids exactly where we left off, scared with the hounds at the door and unsure what to do until they hear a ruckus on the other side of the door. It's Pete beating the hounds up. You can hear it, you can't really see it, so it's like, how's this poor man end up defeating all these hounds? But he does it, so let's move on. He tells the kids to go and is tries to help them out and is triggered when Jenner asks if they should take a weapon, and he reads off the name Esben Wingfeather, and the dude has some definite PTSD as he ends up going into a spiral, which Lily manages to break him out of it, and he steadies himself long enough to lead them out. More hounds end up coming, and Pete lead them back into the forest and into the trees. Things shift back after this to Slarb as he tries to send the jewels that he found to Nag the Nameless, and is caught by other things and taunted. And he gets into a fight with one of them and ends up actually killing him. And this gains anger from the rest of them and leads him into trouble. And he tells Norm about the jewels and how the Igby's had them, and it doesn't do much for him as he's still chased and still being hunted out by the other things, but this does start to begin to grow trouble for the Igabys. Back to Pete and the kids, they try to figure out how to get home safely without coming across the hounds again or any other dangerous creatures in the woods, and they find out about some secret sky roads hidden in the trees, which is super epic. It's like you could have like a whole town in the trees, and that would be super awesome. Which I don't know, maybe there was a town in the trees or is in another part. So this also explains how Pete seems to live in the woods with no problems and seemingly comes out of nowhere to save the kids. Going along, they even find out that Pete has a house in the trees where he stays. He keeps trying to convince the kids not to follow him as he's afraid he'll end up hurting them, but with no idea what direction they need to go, as Pete's speech is jumbled when he tries to give them directions, his words all flipped around and stuff. They're forced to follow him, and he finally clarifies, and soon after he clarifies actually where to go when they can make it out, Janner questions who Pete really is, noticing that, like, hey, this dude obviously isn't just some wacko, that's probably really harsh words, but you get what I'm saying, isn't he's obviously has some background to him that is deeper than just what can be perceived. And Pete ends up having another spiral when Tink begins reading aloud the name Arthur Wingfeather from a book, and Jenner, pinning two and two together, ends up asking Pete about Esben Wingfeather, and that definitely ends up making him end up flipping and is super sad. But Mom and Oscar go to the manor to see if the kids are there, but come up with only knowing that they were there, but they don't get any idea of where they went. Assuming they went home, Mama heads home to see if they return, and seriously turning Oscar down about a quote, because this man's always having some cool quotes, and she's just like, I'm not having it right now. Like, just seriously, Oscar. But, she gets a break because she's stressing over her kids missing, so we'll just give you a break there, Mama. The Jewels arrive to Nag, and he ends up ordering the Igabys to be arrested. So things begin to spiral out of control super fast. The kids end up making their way home, and Nugget and Grandpa end up finding them before they get out of the woods. And while the kids are still in the trees and Grandpa on the ground talking to them, he doesn't notice when a spiked creature comes up behind them. But it's okay because Pete comes to the rescue again, showing even more how he ends up seeming to follow the kids a lot when no one's noticing, to keep an eye on them and keep them safe. And once again, Grandpa's grudge shines through as he shows no gratitude towards Pete saving him from the creature until Lily calls him out on it after he ends up shoving Pete down. And I have to say, this scene was like, I'm usually all for Grandpa. Like, I think he's a pretty cool dude, but watching him be mean to Pete really every time, but this one was just like severe. It like broke my heart. Like, jeez. Pete is clearly trying to make up for whatever it is he failed on that Grandpa is so peeved about, but Grandpa's not having any of his redemption. The Fangs gather to arrest the Igabys and the woman from the flower shop, Fernia, overhears and sends the message to Oscar, and Oscar ends up trying to intervene to help make sure that no one ends up getting caught. The kids and Grandpa heading home, Jenner questions Grandpa on who Esben Wingfeather is, which I'm not entirely clear on how they don't know it's their father, because Mama has obviously not kept the name Esben from them, as earlier episodes have made evident, but maybe she always told them a different name that wasn't Wingfeather, or they just assumed that their father's last name was Igby. I don't know. It could be she just always called them Esben and never brought up the last name, because I mean, you don't really always bring up the last name of a parent to their kids because they don't care, or just you already assume. But I guess that's why Jenner attached the name with the question the few times it comes up, because I mean, you don't always just instantly attach to a name that's just randomly scrawled upon a sword. I mean, if it has the same name as your father, I could understand why he'd be like, hey, this is a little fishy. Why, like, maybe there's some more to the story than I'm being told about. But Grandpa ends up telling him that it is his father, and that he begins to tell them more until they hear a ruckus and run to see their place being burned down in the distance. And Oscar manages to come to them and inform them of what the deal is and what's going on. But Mama was caught already because she went there prior to see if the kids were there, and Grandpa sees this, and he clearly has to go and rescue his girl, because no one's going to be laying hands on his daughter without him having some kind of say-so, and he ain't going to let her get captured without his getting captured too to have her back, which is super sweet. I mean, completely understandable, especially since Oscar's there. Uh, Oscar ends up taking the kids to safety, but not before Tink tries to go and help out too, but is stopped, and I mean, it's understandable. Like, Tink, you're not gonna do much if Grandpa can't do much. But I mean, I get it. He's that tough boy, and it's super sweet, and it's super sad because he can't go save him. And Oscar's like, no, we gotta go. We gotta listen to Grandpa. We gotta go to safety. But that is end of episode 4.